Hello everyone, in this video I will show you a complete guide for the Bamboocut wind path, which consists of the Infernal Twinblades and Mortal Rope Dart martial arts. I will explain how to use the build in PvE, PvP, what stats to focus on when tuning and attuning gear, and some advanced tips and tricks. This is going to be a long and in-depth video, but I will add chapters in the description if you want to skip to a certain part. This build path has extremely high melee DPS, great mobility, and it can shred enemies in the most satisfying way possible. It is pretty difficult to master, but once you get the hang of it, it is extremely rewarding and you can clear any type of solo content with ease. I think it's the most satisfying build in the game, and when you hit those perfect dodges and delete enemies, it feels pretty good. Let's start off with explaining what each martial art does. First off, your main martial art will be the Infernal Twinblades, which uses the dual blades weapon class. The martial art skill is called Attunement, and this will be your main mobility and gap closer skill. It can hold up to 3 charges and you will use this to get close to enemies. The special skill is called Calamity's Greed, and it's a short range quick attack that throws the blade in front of you and it spins and does some damage. Then you have 2 variants for this attack. First one, if you recast the skill before the blade returns, you perform a wide range slash that deals massive damage. Second one, if you wait until the spinning blade returns to your hand, you will see a brief flashing effect, which is the enlightened state mentioned in the skill description, and you have 1 split second to perform a cross slash attack that deals 2 slashes instead of 1. Performing this variant will reduce the cooldown of your Attunement skill by 3 seconds. Next we have the light attack, which is a series of 4 consecutive attacks, and each hit grants you 10, 5, 5 and 5 points of Blazing Wrath, also known as Karmic Flame. It's important to keep in mind that the first attack of the combo string gives you the most Karmic Flame points, so you want to try and cancel your combo using your other skills in order to fill up the Karmic Flame bar faster. Moving on to the most important skill in the whole kit, the Flame Lash Burst skill. You will notice a bar charging above your dual blades icon on the HUD, which represents your Karmic Flame bar. Once this bar is fully charged, you can use the burst skill to enter Wrathful form and transform your light attacks into Celestial Fury. While in this state, your light attacks will drain HP from the enemy, you get 10% critical rate and 20% critical damage. Your attacks also become enhanced, changing into a series of 5 consecutive hits that are faster and stronger than your normal light attacks. The Karmic Flame bar will deplete continuously, but using light attacks and skills you can still get Karmic Flame points while the effect is active, so you can maintain it for longer. Another thing worth noting here is that the bonus effects from the Karmic Flame, which are the critical rate and critical damage, remain active even if you switch weapons. Now let's look at the martial arts talents, which are extremely important. First we have the Perfect Dodge Enhancement talent. This will extend the window for triggering a perfect dodge, and whenever you trigger a perfect dodge, you get an increased breath hold duration of about 3 seconds, while also resetting the cooldown of your Attunement skill. The cooldown reset effect can only trigger once every 30 seconds. Breath hold is an effect that slows down time around you when you trigger a perfect dodge, which is extremely strong, but unfortunately it only works in solo mode. This is the key talent of the Infernal Twinblades, and this allows you to get insanely long windows to deal free damage to enemies, and it's also kind of a survivability effect since you can trigger perfect dodges much easier than other paths can. Next we have Physical Attack Up. This gives you a bonus amount of minimum physical attack based on your agility, and you get the maximum bonus at 150 agility. Next we have another crucial talent, which is the Flame Lash Damage Enhancement. This will give you 5% critical damage bonus during Flame Lash, and another bonus of up to 15% critical damage depending on how much minimum physical attack you have. You get a maximum bonus at 500 minimum physical attack. This talent will increase in level when we get the next level breakthrough in 2 days, and it will then give you up to 25% bonus critical damage. Pairing this with the 20% critical damage you already get from Flame Lash, you can get up to 50% bonus critical damage during Flame Lash, which is crazy. Next we have the Bamboocut Attribute Up talent, which gives you Bamboocut penetration depending on your minimum Bamboocut attack. You get a maximum bonus at 167 minimum Bamboocut attack. Lastly, we have the generic talent that each path has, which is the Attribute Attack Damage Up. This makes all of your skills deal damage based on your total attribute attack stats combined, and your Bamboocut attacks, meaning the attacks of your Infernal Twinblades and Mortal Rope Dart, they will deal another 50% bonus damage based on your Bamboocut attack stat. You can check your total attribute attack stats on the combat attribute screen by selecting the attribute attack stat. So, to recap, the Infernal Twinblades will be your main damage dealing martial art, while the Rope Dart will act as a buffing martial art to increase your damage potential. The Infernal Twinblades playstyle revolves around two things, which are light attacks and perfect dodging. Your main goal is to pay attention to the enemy and look for opportunities to perform a perfect dodge. Keep spamming your light attacks, and when your Karmic Flame is full, that's when you can unleash your full DPS potential and destroy enemies. It's a very simple yet effective playstyle. Let's move on to the Mortal Rope Dart martial art, which will provide us with various damage increasing buffs. First, we have the Blade Bound Thread martial art skill. You throw the rope dart forward, and if you hit a boss, you get pulled towards the target, otherwise you will pull the target towards you. Then, if you use the skill again within 2.5 seconds, you perform a kick that knocks down the target, even boss enemies. Targets hit by Blade Bound Thread will receive a Vendetta token debuff. When your rodent attacks a target with Vendetta token, it will deal 50% increased damage and restore Token of Gratitude. Token of Gratitude is the small yellow icon you can see above your rope dart weapon in the HUD. This can hold up to 2 charges, and it is required to use your special skill, which is the most important part of the Mortal Rope Dart. Unlike the Karmic Flame resource, Token of Gratitude recharges over time, even when you are not using the rope dart weapon. The Rodent Rampage special skill will consume 1 Token of Gratitude to summon a rat which will assist you in combat. Whenever you perform a light attack, the rat will emerge from the ground and launch a coordinated strike. This effect lasts for 10 seconds and it remains active when you switch weapons. You can probably see where this is going. The key idea here is to summon the rat, quickly switch to your Infernal Twinblades and start spamming light attacks. The rat will act as additional bonus damage and will significantly boost your DPS, so it is important to maintain this buff active as much as possible. Next, we have the Mortal Rope Dart light attack, which is a series of 4 consecutive hits. Moving on to the charging stance, this is a unique ability for the Mortal Rope Dart. When you press the button for it, you enter a charging stance and you gain tenacity, meaning you take reduced stagger damage. Depending on how long you are staying in a charging stance, you will get various bonus effects. After 1.5 seconds, you gain an enhancement for your Rodent Rampage special skill, which makes you summon even more rats to assist with your light attacks. After 3 seconds, you start restoring health, and after 4.5 seconds, you start restoring chi. The important part here is the enhancement for the Rodent Rampage skill, which is a buff that remains active until you use the skill, so you don't have to worry about it expiring. While you are in charging stance, you also gain access to an empowered light and heavy attack that either knocks down the enemy or pulls them towards you. Now let's take a look at the martial arts talents. First, we have the most important one, Bone Corrosion Enhancement. This talent will make your Blade Bound Thread skill and Coil Dragon Varied combo apply bone corrosion to the enemy for 5 seconds. This makes you deal 40% chi damage against enemies affected by bone corrosion. Next, we have Critical Rate Up, which gives you bonus critical rate depending on your agility, and you get a maximum bonus at 150 agility. Another crucial talent is the Rodent Rampage Enhancement. This increases the physical damage of the rats by 6% and further up to 10% according to your minimum physical attack. You get a maximum increase at 500 minimum physical attack. This talent will go from 10% bonus damage to 15% when we unlock the next level breakthrough in 2 days, so it will give you a total of 21% bonus damage to the rats. Lastly, we have the Bamboocut Attribute Up and Attribute Damage Up talents, which have the same effects as for the Infernal Twinblades. The Attribute Up talent requires a total of 167 minimum Bamboocut attack to get a maximum bonus from it. If you're wondering what this percentage means on the Martial Arts Talents button, it simply represents the average percentage of the effectiveness of your talents that get bonus effects based on specific attributes. For example, looking at my Physical Attack Up talent, it's currently at 68% because I only have 102 agility instead of 150 to get a maximum bonus. Your goal should be to reach 100% effectiveness with all of your talents, and we'll discuss about how to achieve that in a few minutes. Now that we went through everything for both martial arts, it's time to talk about the playstyle and combos for PvE and PvP. You can already tell that these two weapons synergize really well together, and you can use the Mortal Rope Dart to massively buff the DPS of your Infernal Twinblades. To do a brief recap, we have the following massive damage boost effects from our skills. Vendetta token gives our rodents 50% more damage for 5 seconds. Rodent's Resilience summons the rat, and if you enhance it with charging stance, you get even more rats. Flame Lash is your main damage buff, giving you fortitude, making you drain HP from the enemy and healing yourself, giving you 10% critical rate and 20% critical damage. The idea is to combine all of these buffs together and just delete enemies from existence. There is only one combo you have to care about for this build, and it goes like this. At the start of the fight, switch to your Mortal Rope Dart. Enter the charging stance and hold it for 1.5 seconds until you get a Rodent Rampage enhancement buff. Use Blade Bound Thread on the enemy, only the first hit, because the second one is too risky and usually gets interrupted. Use your Rodent Rampage buff and immediately switch to your Infernal Twinblades. Start spamming light attacks. Make sure to use your dash skill immediately after your first hit of the light attack string to reset it, because remember, the first hit of your light attack combo gives you the most karmic flame points. While spamming light attacks, keep an eye on the enemy's animations, and if you see them get ready to attack, try to trigger a perfect dodge. While in perfect dodge, keep spamming light attacks or use your karmic flame if the bar is full. Once you have entered karmic flame, keep spamming light attacks while trying to perfect dodge as well. When the Rodent Rampage buff or karmic flame has run out, switch to your Mortal Rope Dart and use Blade Down Thread first hit, followed by Rodent Rampage, and immediately switch back to Infernal Twinblades. If you see an opportunity to enter charging stance for 1.5 seconds to get a Rodent Rampage enhancement, do it, but be careful because it's risky. Repeat the previous steps until the enemy is dead. Your goal is to maintain the Vendetta token and Bone Corrosion debuffs applied to the enemy as much as possible, while also maintaining your Rodent Rampage buff active. You will notice that when you have the rats summon, you deal much more stagger than usual with your light attacks, so that's another massive advantage. You don't really need to use your Calamity's Greed except as a finisher or in order to transition a boss to phase 2, because while it does deal a ton of damage and has some utility, it has a very slow animation. The same combo is valid for PvP as well, except here you want to kite the enemy around and only go in when you also have some Adel Mine charges, in order to maintain the stagger on the enemy. In PvP it's a different story because it's all about who staggers the other player more, so you will have to also make use of mystic skills and strategy in order to be successful. When your Adel Mind is on cooldown, you can simply use mystic skill combos such as Dragon's Breath and Drunken Poet to deal damage and stagger the enemy, and when you get your cooldowns back you can continue doing your combo. In PvP your goal is to charge your Karmic Flame as quickly as possible. If you manage to charge and activate it, the fight should be pretty much over, as there is almost no way that your opponent will break out of your light attack combo stagger. Make sure to equip Serene Breeze on your hotbar for PvP, because this is the only skill that allows you to break out of stagger and counter stagger the enemy. You can simply wait for them to start comboing you, then use Serene Breeze and counter attack with your Adult Mind plus light attack combo. Wolf-like Frenzy is another great mystic skill for PvP that deals great damage and stagger, so you can use this while your Adult Mind is on cooldown. Do not engage the enemy in PvP without having Rodent Rampage active and at least one Adult Mind charge, because your light attacks deal almost no stagger damage unless you're in Karmic Flame mode or if you have a rat summoned. The Mortal Rope Dart is especially strong in PvP because of the Blade Down Thread, which deals great stagger and you can pull the enemy to you if needed, and your charge stance attacks can also knock down the enemy or pull them towards you. You will not have many opportunities to enter charging stance and apply the Rodent Rampage enhancement all the time, but in situations where you're playing in a group of players, you can always do it without much risk. Now let's talk about the inner ways, which are crucial for any build path and can be complete game changers when you upgrade them to higher tiers. First off, we have the legendary inner way, Echoes of Oblivion. This inner way makes your normal light attack apply Sin to enemies, and your light attacks during Flame Lash apply Karma. When you attack an enemy that has both the Sin debuff and the Karma debuff on them, you ignore 10% of their physical defense and 10% of their Bamboocut resistance, and you also gain the Samsara buff. Samsara gives you 5% increased HP damage dealt, so it is a very strong buff that will massively increase your damage. Now, when you upgrade this inner way to tier 3, you can trigger Samsara whenever you perform a perfect dodge, so you will be able to maintain it almost constantly if you play the build correctly. It is crucial to upgrade Echoes of Oblivion to tier 3 because this will massively increase your overall DPS output. At tier 4, you gain 1 point of Karmic Flame while dealing damage with the Samsara buff on you, so this will allow you to basically spam Karmic Flame almost non-stop. At tier 6, you get another massive upgrade which makes your Calamity's Greed special skill allow you to apply Sin and Karma at the same time using any light attack. This means you will be able to constantly have that buff that ignores 10% physical defense and 10% Bamboocut resistance, and also maintain Samsara literally non-stop, which will in turn allow you to maintain Karmic Flame active almost non-stop. This inner way is the most crucial for your build, and you should focus on upgrading it as quickly as possible to tier 6. Next we have the Breaking Point Epic Inner Way, which is another great damage boost. Hitting an exhausted enemy with a critical hit will grant you a stack of disintegration for 3 or 5 seconds depending on the tier, and it can stack up to 3 or 5 times depending on the tier of the skill. Each stack of disintegration gives you 10 flat physical penetration and 5% critical damage, so it's pretty massive as you can get up to 50 physical penetration and 25% critical damage against exhausted enemies, allowing you to melt them. Upgrading this at tier 1 will increase the duration of disintegration to 5 seconds. Upgrading to tier 3 will make it so that any hit on an exhausted enemy gives you disintegration stacks as opposed to only critical hits. Tier 4 upgrade increases the maximum stacks to 5, and tier 6 makes it so that when you trigger a perfect dodge, you instantly get maximum disintegration stacks. This effect can only trigger once every 15 seconds. With this upgraded to tier 6, you can essentially maintain 5 disintegration stacks constantly, which is insanely strong. Moving on to Vendetta token, which is another epic inner way corresponding to the Mortal Rope Dart. This makes your Vendetta token last 5 seconds longer, up to 10 seconds, and restore 20 token of gratitude. The tier 1 upgrade makes your token of gratitude resource recover 30% faster. Tier 3 upgrade is a very important one as it makes your Blade-bound thread apply Rodent Hunt on top of Vendetta token. Rodent Hunt lasts 15 seconds, and when it expires, it deals 30% of all the damage from your rodents at a single damage hit. This is an insane damage buff because the rats deal a ton of damage, and having a massive damage hit every 15 seconds is crazy good. The tier 4 upgrade gives you 20% more chi damage to the rats, which is great, and the tier 6 upgrade makes your rats deal 50% more damage and apply 50% reduced healing. Overall, this is a great inner way to at least get to tier 3. Lastly, we have the Riptide Reflex inner way, which is another epic skill corresponding to the Mortal Rope Dart. This one, personally, I would not use because it is clearly designed to take advantage of all the control skills and attacks from the Mortal Rope Dart. This inner way only makes sense if you use Mortal Rope Dart as your main martial art, but since we are not doing that, we will not be using this one. Instead, the better option is Morale Chant, which gives you a stacking physical penetration, damage and healing buff when you attack. Since this build path focuses on dealing a ton of attacks in a short amount of time, it's easy to maintain full stacks of this buff. Upgrading this gives you great stats such as direct critical rate and even more damage from the buff. For mystic skills, we have the following recommendations for PvP. Serene Breeze to get out of stagger, Cloud Steps as a gap closer, Dragon's Breath plus Drunken Poet as a damaging combo, and Wolf-like Frenzy for stagger and chi damage. For PvE, there is only one mystic skill you need, and that is Ghostly Steps. This skill has a perfect synergy with this build because it gives you 40% less endurance cost for the dodge skill and 10% less endurance cost for all of your skills, and it also increases your untargetable duration while dodging. It has a very low vitality cost and it helps you with perfect dodging more without getting punished too much. You should also get Ghost Bind to help you lock weaker enemies in place and allow you to attack them without taking damage and stacking your Karmic Flame easier. Now it is time to move to the gear tab and talk about item sets, tuning attributes and more. First off, obviously we will want to use the Bamboocut arsenal, and for Divinecraft the recommended one is Poison, because it deals more HP and chi damage along with a good damage over time debuff. It also makes your execution skill deal more damage. You can switch this with Fire if you don't have enough Poison Divinecraft. When it comes to gear sets, the recommended ones happen to be the best ones. For the weapons and accessory set, the Swallow Call set is clearly the best one. It makes your light attacks deal 15% more damage to targets with chi below 40% and 5% more to exhausted targets. Since this build is all about spamming light attacks, this is perfect. For the armor set, there are multiple sets you could use, but I personally think the best one is Calm Waters because the whole playstyle revolves around triggering perfect dodges, so you will trigger this effect a lot and you will restore a lot of health and endurance in the process. However, as an alternative, especially for group PvE content, you can use the Flawless Defense set, which gives you between 5% and 10% damage reduction without having any special trigger conditions. This is a generally good defensive set for any build path and any type of content. Now let's talk about the actual tuning and attuning attributes we should look for on our gear. When it comes to tuning, all items can roll the same attributes and it's all random. You cannot control what attribute rolls, you can only control its rarity or its value range. Since we got access to legendary items recently, we can roll up to 5 tuning attributes and 1 attuning attribute on our items. How do we know which attributes are important for our build? The answer is pretty simple, we just need to go back and look at our talents and our skills and playstyle and see what stats they are focusing on. In our case, for the Bamboocut wind path, we need the following. 150 agility to get the maximum possible bonus from our physical attack up and critical rate up talents, 500 minimum physical attack to get the maximum possible bonus from our flame lash damage enhancement and rodent damage enhancement talents, and 167 minimum Bamboocut attack to get the maximum possible bonus from our Bamboocut attribute up talents. If we look at our martial arts, inner ways and overall build playstyle, we can see that the core idea of the build is to deal critical hits as quickly as possible and have them boosted by large critical damage buffs. Our Flame Lash skill, which is the core of the build, gives us 20% critical damage and 10% critical rate. Our Flame Lash damage enhancement talent gives us another 20% critical damage. The only way we can take advantage of all these critical damage buffs is to ensure we are dealing critical hits as often as possible. How can we ensure that? Let's take a look at the combat attributes page and break down some of the key attributes we need. If we highlight the agility attribute, we can see that it gives us critical rate and a minimum physical attack, which both are stats we need to scale our talents and improve our build. Scrolling down to attribute to check, we have precision rate, critical rate and affinity rate. In this game, as opposed to almost any other game out there, you can't just have critical hits and non-critical hits. In order to deal a critical hit, you first have to deal a precision hit, which will then have a chance to be a critical hit. So this means that your normal attacks have a certain chance to be a precision hit, and that hit has a certain chance to be a critical hit and affinity hit. Non-precision hits have a chance to be abrasion hits and affinity hits. For the Bamboocut wind path, we only care about precision and critical hits. If we look at my current stats, I have an almost 90% chance to trigger a precision hit, and then a 46.9% chance to trigger a critical hit. If we highlight the critical rate attribute, we can see that critical hits in this game deal 50% more damage at their base. Critical rate is capped at 80%, and in order to obtain 100% critical rate and crit all the time, you need an additional attribute called direct critical rate, which is added on top of that 80% cap of critical rate. You can only obtain direct critical rate from upgrading your inner ways to higher tiers. If we highlight the critical damage bonus attribute, we can see that it's at 50%. You can only increase this by upgrading your inner ways to higher tiers, but since we are playing Bamboocut Wind, we can get up to 50% more critical damage bonus from our skills and talents. This means we can reach a total of 100% critical damage during Flame Lash, which essentially means double damage. Going back to the gear tab, let's make a list of all the attributes we need to prioritize when tuning our items. First and most importantly, we want precision rate, because without precision hits we can't crit, and without critical hits we can't take advantage of our huge critical damage boost. You should aim for at least 95% precision rate, since that pretty much guarantees every hit will be a precision hit. Next, we want critical rate. We must aim for at least 70% here, since 80% is the cap and we get an additional 10% from our Flame Lash skill. You should ideally have a critical rate roll on each of your gear pieces and try to upgrade your inner waist to get more critical rate and direct critical rate. Then we need agility, more exactly we need at least 150 agility in order to maximize our talents and get some more critical rate. After that we need minimum physical attack, at least 500. We also need minimum Bamboocut attack, at least 167. And lastly, a great attribute is light attack damage boost, since this is a percentage damage increase in our light attack damage and we are spamming light attacks, this is a massive damage boost. Besides the key attributes we mentioned, any other offensive attributes such as power or max physical attack are also good. Now let's talk about attunement attributes. When you're attuning an item, it can roll from a pool of attunement attributes depending on the item type. Weapons have their own pool and armor and accessories have their separate pool. For weapons, you want to prioritize physical penetration, then Bamboocut penetration, and in the worst case, physical defense. Anything else is worthless. For armor and accessories, prioritize the following: Infernal Twinblades empowered light attack damage boost, Mortal Rope Dart rodent damage boost, and Infernal Twinblades martial arts skill damage boost. Anything else is worthless and you should try to aim for light attack damage boost if you want to min-max your build. This attribute increases the damage of your light attacks during Flame Lash. You can check the entire list of possible attunement attributes by pressing the View Attunement Skills button on the tuning screen. For PvP, there is a separate bucket of attributes that you can roll, and it depends on the item type. You should focus on the following attributes. On your weapons, get bonus chi damage when breaking the target's defense, and increased damage taken when breaking the target's defense. On your disc, get Addled Mind Attune effect. On your pendant, get the Blade of Heaven's Wrath effect, which enhances your light attacks during Celestial Fury. On your helmet, get a 2 seconds tenacity buff, which is useful when using Serene Breeze to break out of stagger. On your armor, get reduced martial art and special skill damage by 25%. On your greaves, get chi recovery when dodging. On your bracers, get increased chi damage upon a successful deflection. Now it's time for some advanced tips and tricks. First off, remember that your goal is to charge Karmic Flame as quickly as possible, and the first attack of your light attack combo gives you 10 Karmic Flame points, while the other 3 attacks give you only 5. For this reason, whenever you have Addled Mind charges, do the following combo: light attack twice, Addled Mind, light attack twice, Addled Mind, and so on. Doing this combo with 3 Addled Mind charges will give you the fastest Karmic Flame charging possible. Keep in mind that all of your skills charge up your Karmic Flame, not just your light attacks, and Addled Mind is a very quick casting skill with a short animation, so it's super fast when you combine it with your light attacks. Addled Mind is also your main staggering ability. If you hit 2 of these in quick succession on a boss, you are almost guaranteed to stagger it and interrupt its attack. When you're fighting a boss in solo mode and you know that an attack is coming that consists of multiple hits, for example Murongyu-1's sword slashes, you can perfect dodge each of the attacks in the combo string to gain a huge amount of breath hold where you can deal free damage. Just remember that each perfect dodge will slow down the time for 3 seconds, so start counting and try to time your perfect dodge for the next attack in the combo string. With this build path, you want to be constantly attacking, never back down, constantly sit in the enemy's face, and learn to use perfect dodges because that's how you can maximize your damage output. This is also how you can maintain the Samsara buff from your Echoes of Oblivion active, which massively increases your damage. You can take advantage of the perfect dodge breath hold window to use your medicines and Divinecraft without risking getting punished. You can even use your perfect dodge windows to switch to the Mortal Rope Dart to buff yourself up quickly and then switch back. When your Karmic Flame is full or almost full, it is a good practice to switch to your Mortal Rope Dart to apply Vendetta token to the enemy and use Rodent Rampage, then switch back and immediately activate Karmic Flame. Since you attack much faster while in Flame Lash mode, the rats will also deal much more damage overall, maximizing your DPS potential. Even though I said that the Mortal Rope Dart is our supporting martial art, it can actually be insanely strong on its own, depending on the scenario. It deals much higher chi damage than the Infernal Twinblades, and it has way more stagger and control, plus a longer range. If you are struggling with a boss that likes to stay at range or run away, or if you are fighting a player in PvP that uses a ranged build, you should consider using the Mortal Rope Dart as your main weapon. You can even use the Flame Lash buff with your Twinblades and then switch to the Mortal Rope Dart and still benefit from the crit rate and crit damage. When do you actually parry with this build? Like I mentioned, perfect dodging is much more important than parrying, but there are still moments when parrying might be better. For example, if the boss is one parry away from getting exhausted, and you know for sure you can parry an incoming attack, then you should 100% do it. Parrying red attacks can also be good because you will deal both HP and chi damage and stagger the boss. It can also be beneficial to land a couple of parries early on into the boss fight because you get more damage from your Swallow Call item set when the enemy has less than 40% chi, but generally speaking you should focus on perfect dodging. Another tip which is not related to gameplay is to never look at your mastery score and think it matters the most. Never equip items just because they have a higher gear score, because that does not automatically make them the best in slot item for you. It doesn't matter if an item has all 5 legendary rolls if it doesn't have any of the attributes that are recommended for this build path. Focus on getting your martial arts talents to 100% effectiveness and rolling the attributes that I mentioned previously, and ignore the mastery score. Now, before we end this video, there's something I'd like to add. While this build has very high DPS and can absolutely destroy boss enemies in solo PvE, it loses a good amount of DPS when doing group PvE content. The main reason for this is that you can't perfect dodge in group PvE, which means you won't be able to maintain Samsara active all the time, and you won't be able to have Disintegration active at all times. Also, in group PvE, the boss moves around a lot while focusing the tank, and since you have to be very close to the enemy with this build in order to deal damage and charge your Karmic Flame, this makes it much harder to do that, which in turn will reduce your DPS. Despite all of this, I believe this is the most satisfying and rewarding build to play right now, and it's not that difficult to play either, once you get used to it. That would be it for this video, and if you found this information helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. I will be making a video like this for each of the build paths, so stay tuned in the upcoming weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.